Wide Asleep by Seb Pepino, performed by Martine Richards. Episode 4, The Hill. Leonard drove fast, crossing red lights and weaving between pedestrians. The main police chase was a few streets away, but he knew the city well and knew that cutting in a certain direction would take him outside town quicker. His instinct told him the bus was heading for St. Catherine's Hill. Crossing the city at that speed and height meant it would be aimed directly at the hill. He imagined that whichever force was driving it would either lay the bus on the hill or raise its altitude to pass it entirely. The radio brought bad news. The other chase had ended in disaster. The fleet had hit an invisible wall at great speed, and many had died in the chain collision that followed. Many years later, Leonard would still think about how he had avoided death by following the most basic human instinct. Leonard parked below the hill. The bus had disappeared behind it a few minutes earlier. He took the shortest path up. The sight of the bus lying in the middle of the autumn grass was a relief. He knew in his heart that Petra was alive, and he was committed to finding her. Something about her suggested she had some kind of relevance among ordinary people. She didn't look like someone who took orders easily. She wasn't like him. He had given his whole life to the force and his community. It was his mission. The bus wasn't more damaged than it already was. Leonard approached slowly, holding his gun, though he thought it was a stupid thing to do given he was dealing with some kind of supernatural force. He held it anyway. He got on the bus, and there she was, lying on the floor.
"Petra?"
he called. She didn't move. He looked around. No sign of any living people. Only the mayhem left behind from the initial event. He didn't let his gaze rest on the bodies. He had learned that staring into a dead person's eyes would stay with you no matter what. He knelt beside her. She was unconscious but alive. He finally started to breathe normally. She opened her eyes and stared up at the sky, motionless. Leonard looked around, and the bus had disappeared. They were both in the middle of the wet, grassy hill. He wasn't surprised. He looked away, knowing that his colleagues, or what was left of them, and the emergency vehicles would soon be there. During her voyage, Petra had been taken back to her earliest childhood memories. She had had a nightmare once, when she was very small. She was in her mother's bedroom at night. She looked over the bed and saw something lying on it. A newborn baby, its head split in half. There was no blood, but she could see the brain from the outside. Many years later, she had found it strange that a child would have such a dream. Maybe it had been a memory of a past life. Dreams are just insights into other realities, she thought. Multiple versions of us, all living slightly distorted lives. Real life is boring. Sometimes I want to live inside a film, away from people driven by their desires, their selfishness. Everyone is selfish. Everyone is locked inside a loop they cannot escape. Maybe I am living in a film after all, and this is just the way it was written. Petra opened her eyes to a familiar sight. A female doctor was looking down at her.
"You had quite an adventure out there, didn't you?"
the doctor said. Petra couldn't remember anything of what had happened that day. The flying bus, Leonard, the hostage, the bodies. Every single detail had been wiped from her brain. Wide Asleep, a Null film production, written by Seb Pepino and narrated by Martine Richards. Original soundtrack by Logan Coots. The story you've just heard is a work of fiction. Names, characters, and incidents are imagined, and any resemblance to actual events or persons is intentional. This production is protected by copyright, all rights reserved.